Hey guys, Mike with Nerd Problems Gaming here, the channel where we go through the good and bad of everything nerdy to make sure you spend your time on the best of the best. In today's video, I'll be going through a review of the book, The School for Good and Evil, A World Without Princes, so let's get into it. So this is actually book 2 in the series of The School for Good and Evil, and little spoilers here. I guess if you haven't read the first one, go back and read that before watching this video because this is the second book, right? And so the first book basically takes place in the School of Good and Evil. Agatha and Sophie are best friends, and they come from this small town village. See, what happens is students start disappearing from this village, and then all of a sudden storybooks start to appear in the bookstore featuring kids from town. And so it's kind of like famous stories as well. So things like Jack and the Beanstalk and Cinderella and Snow White, and basically all these famous fairy tales are stemming from kids that come from this town, a good portion of them. And so what ends up happening is Sophie and Agatha end up attending this school. They get through these dangerous woods and become students, and basically there's two schools, a school for good and a school for evil. And the school for good basically teaches people how to become princes and princesses, basically the heroes of the story. And then there's a school for villains and evil, which really teaches them again how to be villains and how to learn evil things and spells and all those different things. And so it's pretty cool. It's kind of like a Harry Potter-esque thing, but instead of being just straight magic, it's kind of more fairy tales and then based on good and evil. Now moving into this second book, Agatha and Sophie made it past their first year. They ended up surviving and getting away from the School of Good and Evil. In the first book, they were pitted against each other, one being good, one being evil. And so what ends up happening is that they come together at the end and still remain friends. And instead of the princess going off with her prince, they end up being together as best friends. So they make it back to their world, but Agatha, the princess in this case, still really wants to be with her prince. And this wish kind of causes them to get back, pulled back into this world of good and evil and back to the school to kind of finish their story and see if she'll really get her prince or what the case was, or if they'll end up being best friends. And so this book follows that path, and instead of being a school of good and evil, now it's a school for girls and a school for boys and princes. And so it's kind of those two schools butting against each other. And so what's cool with this book is that instead of being kind of like the villains, the Evers and the Nevers, separate, they're together in this book, kind of working together on the boys side and then the girls side. So it kind of creates a cool dynamic where you see, you know, heroes and villains working together throughout this story. And so throughout this book, it's following that path, and what happens is boys basically challenge the girls to a trial because the boys' side, they want to go back to good and evil because they've basically been like emasculated, right? So they are in a world where princes aren't needed anymore, and so they've just basically become like servants and slaves, you know, woman power, which is cool and all that, but you know, what happens is that they're not very fond of being the losers in every single story now. And so they want the world to go back to how it was with good and evil. And so they challenge the girls' school to a trial, and whoever wins, you know, the boys will make it go back to good and evil, and then the girls kind of keep it their way. And the boys will remain slaves and kind of the losers in every story. And so the book is pretty cool. Like I said, it mixes the good and evil fighting on the same team. And then it also covers some concepts that, you know, I think are kind of relevant to everybody, right? So it's like, you know, if you are starting a relationship with someone, do you abandon your friends, or is just a relationship with your friends enough where you don't need a relationship with a spouse or a significant other, right? And so it tackles those ideas. And, you know, if you do get into a relationship, are you just going to lose your friends? And so it's kind of cool to see that played out in this fairy tale setting as well. And then, you know, much like the first book, it's always keeping you on your toes. There's a lot of twists and turns. You never really know who's on whose side, who's good and who's really evil, who's the good guy and who's the bad guy in the scenario. And so I like that aspect that it maintains that. And then I think the book has a lot of twists within it as well. So again, even up to the last chapter, it keeps you guessing and wondering what's going to happen, how is this going to turn out. And so I really like that. It makes it a fast page turner. It's easy to read and it keeps it engaging. And so like I said, it's kind of like a alternate Harry Potter type universe, but again, it's more fairy tale based. And then in this one, instead of good versus evil, it's the girls versus the boys. So it's another spin on it that you didn't really see in any other genre that I've read before. So again, definitely recommend picking this book up. It's a lot of fun. It's an easy read. If you're into fantasy fairy tale type books, I would recommend checking this one out for sure. Obviously check out the first book first and then move on to this one, the second one. But let me know in the comments below. Do you like this one better than the first one? You know, what's your favorite in the series? Let me know in the comments below. Love to talk about it more there. And if you haven't done so yet, be sure to like this video and smash that subscribe button and turn on those bell notifications, as it really helps out the channel. And if you'd like to help us support the channel, help us pick out content and more, consider becoming a patron of ours at nerdproblemsgaming.com/Patreon. And if you'd like to plug into our live streams and Let's Plays we do on the channel as well, you can follow us over on Twitch over at nerdproblemsgaming.com/Twitch. But again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you more soon.